So hello, my name is Lon Safko, author of the Social Media Bible and the Fusion Marketing Bible, both bestsellers on Amazon. I'm really excited to say that. And in this presentation, I'm going to talk about the Safko Wheel, the companion marketing toolkit that actually you get free with the book, the Fusion Marketing Bible, and how powerful it is and how many different ways you can use it to actually increase revenue for your company, for yourself, for the company that you work for, or for your clients if you're a consultant. And this toolkit is so amazing that I'm continuously asked to do a tutorial on all the different ways that you can use it. Now, I talk about it in the book, but here I'm actually going to show you some examples of how it works. First off, what is the Safko Wheel? Well, as I said, it's a download that you can get with the book, or you can go to extremedigitalmarketing.com and you can buy a pre-printed executive kit. There's lots of different ways that you can get it. And really, it's a companion toolkit. It's a marketing toolkit that goes along with Fusion Marketing. And it's a tool that allows you to see all of the traditional digital and social media marketing tools all in one image. And for me, that was a really important milestone when I created Fusion Marketing, because I never actually saw everything that I can do in each of these three categories all in one picture. And when I saw it in this image, and you'll see it here coming up shortly, it was like, wow, okay, that's everything I can do. That's how it all works. There it is. I don't have to think of them as individual little tools that I do occasionally. It's a package. It's a tool set. And for the first time, I saw that because of the Safko Wheel. And it allows you to manage all of these tools. And that's part of the problem with traditional marketing, digital marketing, and social media marketing. Is just doing traditional was difficult and time consuming and brain draining enough. And then we added digital and social media tools, and it just got completely unruly, because how do you manage all those different tools? Hundreds and hundreds of combinations. Well, the Safko Wheel is kind of the answer to that, and you'll see that as we go through this presentation. And what it does is it allows you to focus on what's important, what you want to accomplish, what your demographic is looking for, how you want to execute your marketing plan. It allows you, it's a tool that shows you how to focus on specific tools and get the most out of them. And the other thing that you'll find is that it allows you to discover hidden opportunities. There's tons, literally hundreds of opportunities hidden within what you're currently doing, but because of the complexity of all of these different tools, it's just too hard. It's too difficult to picture all of these hidden opportunities, and this tool actually uncovers them one at a time. You'll see. And it's a tool that allows you to leverage what you're currently doing with exponential results. Looking at what you're currently working on, the marketing tools that are working for you and your demographic, but figuring out and showing you a system of actually leveraging those specific tools so that you get an exponential rate of return. You get an increase on the effectiveness of what you're currently doing. And that leads to the next bullet point. It allows you to increase your ROI, return on investment, without spending a cent more. And that's what we're all looking for. How do we make the marketing that we're currently doing more effective? And then the other thing that's cool is it's free with the purchase of the Fusion Marketing Bible. So let's get into it. And who is the wheel for? I'm asked that all the time. You know, basically it's three different categories. First of all, it's anyone who does sales or marketing. If you do any kind of sales and marketing, and I don't care if it's an entrepreneurial company, if it's a Fortune 500 company, or anything in between, if it's a government agency, if it's a profit or nonprofit, if you're an association, if you're higher education, doesn't matter. It works. It works for you, because Fusion Marketing and the Safko Wheel is designed to increase your ability to reach your customers. That may be a paying customer. It may be a donation customer if you're a nonprofit. Either way, you in marketing and sales has a responsibility to connect with those customers, build trust, and convert that trusted relationship into revenue. And if you're someone within a large company and you just want to improve your company's marketing, you want to make a name for yourself, you want that next promotion, trust me, Fusion Marketing and the Safko Wheel is the way to go. Even if you're one individual within a large organization. If you're a business owner, it gives you a competitive advantage and no additional cost. I'm a small business owner, and that's why I invented Fusion Marketing and the Safko Wheel. I want a competitive advantage. I want my marketing to be significantly more effective with much less waste and greater rate of return on investment. And if you're a consultant, you're going to want to differentiate yourself from the fierce competition, and you're going to want to generate additional revenue. So you can use it on your own company to reach more clients, and then when you have more clients, Fusion Marketing and the Safko Wheel process will differentiate you from all of the other social media experts, the hundreds of thousands of people who are calling themselves social media experts. It differentiates you in such a way where you actually can sit down with your client, go through this process, and generate more revenue for them. And of course, that means more revenue for you. So it's kind of a win-win. The wheel, the Safko wheel, only requires 10 steps, and only one of those steps really take any work. It's an amazing team building exercise. It's the more people that you have participating in using the Safko wheel, the more effective it is, the more fun it is, the more perspectives, and the greater the return is. And there's only one. Step 3 is the only place that you have to do a little bit of work. The rest of it is fun, and even that's not too bad. I'm not going to go through each of the steps, but I wanted to put them in here in case you wanted a copy of this presentation, that all of the steps were clearly laid out in a kind of a linear format. But I'm going to go through each of these. And here's the second set. This is 6 through 10. And as you can see, they're really only a sentence or 2 sentences apiece. So you can understand that using the Safko wheel is really not that difficult if you know how. And of course, once you know how, you're going to see that it's a tool that you can use over and over and over, and even figure out new ways of doing it. So let's take a look at it. If you've seen the book, the Fusion Marketing Bible, or if you've seen any of my presentations on Fusion Marketing, you've seen this image. This image, I've changed it up a little bit to kind of make each of the tools that revolve around the outside of this starburst to look more like the cards that come with the Safko Wheel toolkit. Now, when you download it, you build this little starburst that's in the center, and each one of those traditional cards can be cut out, and they look like little playing cards, basically. And the first step in using the Safko wheel is to work with traditional. And the reason that we start there is pretty much anybody who's been in marketing and sales for any length of time understands all this traditional tools, these types of campaigns. I mean, we've all done business cards and door hangers and presentations. We know what coupons and print ads are, and TV, radio, trade shows. So you start with this because not only you, your team, your company, your clients can better understand the progress, the progression, because we're starting with something that everybody understands. So the first thing that I want you to do is, really, if you have the kit, just cut out the first 2 wheels, the red and the blue. The other ones are for creating other wheels, Fractal Fusion, and I'll show you that later. So you only really need 2 of these to get started, the traditional and the digital/social, the red and the blue. So these are the red cards. The first thing you're going to do is sit down at a conference table and start with your starburst, the traditional one, and you're going to put each of the 20 cards around the outside of this starburst. Now, what we're trying to get at is the old saying, I know that half of my advertising is working, I just don't know which half. So that's our goal here, is to figure out what we've done in the past, whether or not it was effective, and should we do it in the future. And we're going to stick primarily with traditional because the digital social side of it is so much less expensive to implement. You don't have media buys, you don't have printing costs. There's really no hard costs associated with social media marketing. So we're going to take all of the possibilities of all the different types of campaigns, which are represented by these cards, which are tools, and we're going to put them around the wheel. The next step that I want you to do is take a look at these and remove the cards that you don't participate in. If you're a small business owner, more than likely you're not doing television advertising or radio advertising. And if you're a service company, you're probably not doing product packaging. So there's some things that you haven't done last year, maybe it's not appropriate for your particular product or service or your company. So what we're going to do is just flick those cards away, shoo them away, knock them off the table, put them back in the box for later. And by the way, maybe later we will use some of those cards. But for now, we're going to focus strictly on just the products, just the tools that you use to do your marketing campaign, traditional campaign last year. So it kind of makes sense. Now also, as we go through this entire process, keep in mind that every single company and every single person and every single time you do this, it's going to be different based on your choices, which means the Safko Wheel allows you to create a marketing plan, a set of strategies specific to your needs, your company at this very moment. No two times or no two people are ever alike. It customizes this plan as we go through it based on your decisions. The next step is to take those same cards, those same tools, those same campaigns, and here's the one step that's going to require just a little bit of effort. We're going to determine the cost of customer acquisition. And the reason we're going to do that, we want to find out what's working so we can keep doing it, and what's not working so we can stop. That way, when we find out what's not effective, the campaigns that we did last year with the least amount of ROI, we can take those human and financial resources and actually move them over into campaigns and tools that will be effective, so you're going to get significant returns because you're simply just not wasting your money. So this part of the exercise, and you've read it in the book, you've heard it in the other presentations, we're going to take a yellow pad, a whiteboard, an Excel spreadsheet, and you're going to lock yourself in your office with a cup of coffee, with a Starbucks, with crack cocaine, whatever your stimulant of choice is. And you're going to take each of these campaigns that you did last year, each of these tools, and you're going to make headings. And then under each of those headings, you're going to list all of the hard and soft costs, all of the costs associated with doing print ads. You had to have somebody design it, you had to have maybe some photography, you had to have some copywriters, you got the cost of the ads, you got the media buys, you got the people's time involved, all of the people that worked on those print ad campaigns. I'm using this as an example. So total up every single one of those, both hard, soft, direct, and indirect expenses for each of these campaigns that you did last year. And then total up the amount of expenses that you incurred in each one of these campaigns. And then, of course, the last part is, how many new customers did you get last year? And I'm not talking about new customers. You can use how many sales you actually made, because in my opinion, if a repeat customer, if a customer that you had actually came back and purchased again, you know what? That was your customer to either gain or to lose. So I'm going to give you some grace here and allow you to just count the number of sales that you made last year. But if you want to do it strictly by the book, the number of new customers that you generated last year. Because remember, everything that we do here has to lead to new customers, and that has to lead to revenue, because if you can't directly associate every one of these different campaigns to generating specific revenue, well, then you got to stop. You got to stop doing it. So look at the total number of new customers that you got last year. If you're a small company, that's going to be fairly simple. If you're a larger company, get your accounting department to just simply run some reports for you. And then prorate, based on your best guess estimates, how many new customers each one of these campaigns generated. And then you just simply divide the number of customers into the expenses, and then you will know that each individual customer in each of these campaigns cost you this amount of money. And things like credit cards is $150, DirecTV is $250, new cars are $450. That's how much you have to spend in advertising, in doing traditional media, to gain one new customer. That's your cost to customer acquisition. And every company should know that. So again, if you're working for a big company, this is invaluable information, because you're going to determine what's working and what's not working, so you can direct your resources appropriately. If you're a business owner, you're going to want to know this, because you're going to want to stop wasting money on advertising campaigns that simply don't work. And if you're a consultant, this is what your clients are going to want to know. Okay, so after we go through this process, what's going to come out of this is there's going to be a few things that are going to drop off this list, like direct mail. Now, if you have a company that's catering to an older population, let's say you sell RVs, you probably don't want to drop direct mail. Maybe you do. After you test it, you'll know the answer. But in a lot of companies, direct mail is just not effective. So you're going to want to eliminate it. With one of my companies, I did a test, and I found that a $15,000 direct mail campaign to a very targeted list generated 4 new customers at an average sale of $30 apiece. Do the math. 4 new customers, $30. You can't make that up in volume when your expenses are $15,000. So for my one company, I'll never do a direct mail piece again, ever. That's what that taught me. I could now manage because I measure. Because remember, they say you can't manage what you don't measure. So the Safko Wheel already now is generating revenue for me and making my existing advertising, my existing marketing significantly more effective. But wait, there's more. We all know that we have to do some form of digital/social media marketing. Digital marketing is one-way communication, but uses technology over the internet, which includes mobile, tablets, the regular browsers, PCs, laptops. But it's only one-way communication, kind of like traditional, but it's electronic. Things like RSS, really simple syndication, SEO, search engine optimization, SEM, search engine marketing. Now, these are all things that you really need to do as a marketing person. And most of them, you only have to do one time, and you're tricked out, you're working perfect. But it doesn't provide two-way communication, but it's still part of marketing. And then, of course, social media marketing is this two-way communication. In all of my books, the Social Media Bible and the Fusion Marketing Bible, I talk about what I call the Trinity of social media, which is blogging, microblogging, and social networks. I'm not going to get into it here or explain it because I go into a lot of detail in my other presentations. So I'm going to have to assume at this point you really understand the SEO implications of blogging and which social networks you need to be on. I'll give you a hint, all of them. And microblogging, the power of the limitation of 140 characters. So let's start with these, because these are the foundation, the basics. And what I want you to do is to create the second wheel with your digital social media tools on it. And I want you to start, of course, with social networks, blogging, and microblogging. And then you end up with a wheel that looks something like this, because pretty much all of your tools are on there. But you know what? All of those tools are not appropriate for your company or for your client company. And the reason is that, for example, live casting, having yourself on camera for people to watch 24 hours a day. There's several people that I talk about in the book, which it's changed their careers, but it's probably not right for your company. Gaming, companies like Axe Deodorant, Coca-Cola, McDonald's, Hewlett-Packard, they understand the power of in-game advertising, online advertising, but that might not be right for your company. So what we're going to do is, even though we're starting with all of these social tools, this is the second digital/social media tools, we're going to knock out some of them, and we're going to keep some of them that have the best ROI. SEO, SEM has a very high ROI. Email marketing, high ROI. And then, of course, you've got the Trinity, which is blogging, microblogging, and social networks. So what I want you to then do is flick away any of the cards that simply don't apply to your company or your demographics. And I don't want you to keep all of them up there. Even though social media tools are inexpensive, there's no media buys, there's no hard costs, it's just time. I don't want you to try to do everything. If you try to do everything, you're going to do everything poorly. If you select what you want to focus on for your next year's marketing plan or your next quarter's marketing plan and keep it relatively simple, and this is a lot of things here. These tools, this is quite a bit. But again, as I said, SEO, one time. SEM, once you get your campaign going, you just tweak it. So this is doable, but you may want to start out with even less. So at this point of using the Safko wheel, we started with all of the social media tools. We've simply removed the ones that wasn't appropriate so that we can get it down to a much more manageable size. Now, you could pretty much guess where we're going to go with the Safko wheel next. We're going to add back in the traditional tools that we kept from the previous step. And you'll see those here in red. Now, I call this the TraDigital Toolset. TraDigital meaning both traditional and digital/social toolset. But I want you to remember again at this point that those tools that you picked, of course, I'm using an example here. The tools that you pick for your company, for your clients, are going to be specific to what works best for you. We've already picked the very best traditional. We've weeded out any traditional that was ineffective, cost ineffective, or had a poor ROI. We picked out the very most important 3 social media tools: blogging, microblogging, and social networks. We added in some other social tools that we know that we really should focus on over this coming year. And we added that all back in. Now we've got a set of tools, a TraDigital set of tools that are manageable. We can work with this number of tools. No matter how big or small your company is, you probably can handle this. And you know what? If it's too much, then at this point, take a couple away. I'm okay with you removing some of these cards because, again, what you do, I want you to do effectively because that's what Fusion Marketing is about. So now that we have this, now we're actually talking about fusion or fusing marketing. And what that means is, and you've read it in the book, you've seen it in the other presentations, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it, it's how do I take one and leverage that to make the other things that I'm doing more effective? How can I take business cards and push people to my social networks? How can I use all of my social networks individually to drive people to my video sharing? On my videos, how could I then remind people that those soundtracks are available on podcasts and other fresh podcasts? In my podcast, how do I get people to benefit from my customer service, my podcast customer service? And do my customer service reps send people to the web pages for frequently asked questions? These are all the different types of connections, interconnections, and reverse connections that drives the power of Fusion Marketing. And this Safko wheel that you're seeing in front of you right now is the actual tool that sits on the table that allows you to make every one of these connections without missing anything, so that you can record and document all the different connections, all the hidden opportunities, all the ways that you can use one marketing tool to significantly leverage the other marketing tools that you're already currently doing anyway, which means that you will get all of this greater return, but there's absolutely no expense involved. So when you get to this step, by yourself, with your team, with your client, this is where I want you to spend most of your time, making each of these connections. Start with one of the cards, one of the tools, and then connect it to every other card on the wheel. And then I want you to take the next card, go around the wheel clockwise, pick the very next card, and then connect it to every other wheel, every other tool that's on the wheel, and find those hidden opportunities. And then continue around that wheel either until you're exhausted or you've exhausted all of the possible discoveries. That's the power, the first step of using the Safko wheel to analyze the connections and discover the opportunities within your TraDigital toolset. Again, I'm assuming that you've read the book, or have seen my presentations. There's something that I call Fractal Fusion Marketing, and that means you can use the Safko wheel to drill down. So let's suppose your company says this year, you know what, we really need to focus on social networks. We understand that Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn and MySpace are really important, and we need to have a strong presence on there, as well as others. So social networks is going to be a priority. And we learned that from the previous wheel. Now here's where we drill down. What if we took one of the blank cards, or we took the social network card and put that right in the center of the wheel. And we turned an entire wheel just into focusing on social networks. So if social networks are important to me, the first thing that I want to do is go out and Google what are the top 10, top 15 social networks. And there they are, by the way. As of the time of this presentation, those were the biggest social networks on Earth. Now keep in mind, on Earth, unless you're specifically trying to exclude people from outside of the United States or outside of a geographic area, you need to widen your perspective. So when you go to the internet and you Google or you Yahoo or you MSN or Bing, what are the top 10 social networks, you're going to see this list. Then you have to ask yourself the question, do I have a profile? Is my company represented on every one of these social networks? And if they're important networks, which by the way these are, because these are the biggest networks in the world, am I actively keeping my profile up? Am I actively participating in these networks? Because I need to if I'm going to connect with my customers. Now, for example, if you look at the 6 o'clock position, Orkut, do you personally have a profile on Orkut? Outside of the United States, it's as big as Facebook. And at one time, it was bigger than Facebook in Europe. But most people don't participate. Well, if you think that you can get business from outside of the United States, and I see it all the time in my business, then I want to participate. I want to have a profile on Orkut. So the point is, I'm just pulling one of those tools, and I can pull any one of those tools, and I can put it in the center of the wheel, and then the Safko wheel forces me to drill down deeper and focus on a priority tool, a priority marketing tool. Now, can you do fusion marketing on Fractal? Yeah. And what that means is, am I taking people from my Twitter account and am I driving them to Facebook? On Facebook, am I reminding people that I have a profile and to connect with me on LinkedIn? On LinkedIn, do I have my Twitter handle and asking people to follow me on Twitter? And you can connect every one of these networks with that same type of logic because you're doing it anyway, and that way one of these networks are going to drive or leverage all of your other networks. Is that cool? So even at this fractal level, you still can do the fusion. You can fuse these different tools together. Let's try another example so you understand fractal. What if I now drill down even further? Now remember, that was one level. I took one tool from my TraDigital wheel, my Safko TraDigital wheel, and I put it in the center, and I used social networks. Now we saw Facebook on the previous wheel was only one tool on the outside of the wheel. What if I took that one tool, Facebook, and put it in the center of the wheel and made an entire wheel of just Facebook? If you think that Facebook is a good place to meet your prospects, to build relationships of trust, and to convert that trust into revenue, which, by the way, last September 14th, Facebook broke 1 billion. They exceeded 1 billion active members. That's billion with a B. So the answer is yes, it is a good place. So what are the top 10 things that you can do on Facebook in business to drive and to make Facebook one of those effective social networking tools? Well, if you don't know, there it is, by the way. And all you have to do is Google it. Top 10 business Facebook. And you'll see multiple blogs of people that spend their entire careers focusing on just Facebook, that one tool, and how to best use it for business. Now, as you look around this wheel, are you familiar with every one of those things? More than likely not. But if your company is going to take social networks and make it a priority, and Facebook is the largest social network in that group, you probably need to focus on Facebook, and that means you should be doing these things. And if you're not, do them, and you're 100% effective. Isn't this cool? We could do fractal fusion marketing and continually drill down. Now, the number of opportunities are, first of all that top level tools, both traditional and social, and you can take each of those and drill down again like we did with social networks, and then we can drill down again all the way down to actual best practices. Power of the Safko Wheel. Now let me throw in a traditional one here just so that you know that I'm not making this up because social media, digital works better. What if we took from the top level, we did a fractal fusion marketing drill down on just customer service? What are the top 10 things that you can do with customer service? By the way, this is what the experts believe are the top best practices that you can do with customer service to make your customer service award winning. So if customer service is important to your company, to your clients, to your prospects, and you want to focus that on customer service in the coming year, why not create a Safko wheel that talks strictly about customer service? And you can perform these simple steps multiple times with any of the tools. Do it with your team or do it with your client companies. Now, another really powerful way to use the Safko wheel is in developing a strategy. And you've heard me in the book and in the presentations that everybody talks about strategies, tactics, tools, but nobody really completely understands it. And I researched a lot of people who think they know what all this means, but in fact, they really don't. So part of fusion marketing was to utilize the Safko wheel to actually help you create a strategy, a set of strategies that is going to be significantly effective for your company. And this is how it works. First of all, strategy is not a thing. It's the culmination, it's the summary of everything that we're about to talk about. The second thing is we're going to put down a Safko wheel. You can use any of the colored wheels or use one of the wheels that are unmarked, like the yellow or the purple or the green, and set it in the center. Now the first step is objective. Now objective and goal is synonymous. They mean the same thing. So we're going to get rid of the word goal and we're going to call it objective. And as you see in the top left there, I want you, either for your own company or your client companies, create 3, 4, maybe 5 really sound objectives. What do I want to accomplish with my marketing next year, next quarter, whatever's appropriate? What do I want to accomplish? And set clear, solid objectives and create somewhere between 3 and 5 of them. They'll, trust me, when you use this Safko wheel, 3 to 5 of them are going to keep you and your company very, very busy. So things like increase my email list, because we know how effective email marketing is. Drive more attendance to my live presentations. Perform more webinars. Develop more product awareness. Drive more traffic to my retail locations. Those are all very logical, very sound objectives. So we're going to start, we're going to create a Safko wheel. We're going to create 3 to 5 objectives. We're going to fill out the little cards and we're going to put it in the center of the wheel. And we're going to just, for this example, we're going to start with the example, increase my email list. That's my objective. The next thing, remember the tools? I think you do. Those are the tools that we have just developed throughout this entire process. These are the best tools. These are the best in class. These are tools that satisfy our demographics. And again, every single time we do this, it's different for every company and every individual and every client. It's going to be what's best for them. So here's all of our tools, and we're going to put all the tools from the last set of wheels, we're going to put those around the outside. These are our TraDigital marketing tools. Same ones, didn't make any changes, just changed the colors of the card. Okay, now the tactics. Strategy equals objective plus tools plus tactics. The tactics part of this are how am I going to use each tool to achieve that particular objective. Microblogging, you'll see it over on the 9 o'clock position. How am I going to use microblogging or Twitter to increase my email list? Well, you can tweet out a bit.ly link, a shortened link, so that people can sign up for your email newsletter, your email list saying, hey, if you love my 140 characters, you're going to really love my emails, which don't have the same restrictions. Sign up for my email list or whatever. I'm kind of joking around, but use Twitter to increase your email list. How are you going to use your podcast audio recordings? Well, tell people to sign up for your email list and tell them the advantages. Create a podcast that just does that. In your presentations, how do you increase your email list? Well, what I do is I say, if you want copies of my slides, go to my website, click on the top button, get free content. It's going to ask for your email address. I'm going to send you a password, and you're going to get access to all of my presentations. Okay, that's called fish food, but it allowed me to build nearly a 10,000 name list of people that I have relationships with. So when I email them, I get as high as anywhere from 25 to 35% conversion rate. That's the power. How do I use coupons? How do I use print ads? How do I use catalog? How do I use each of these tools as I go around this wheel? How can I use these tools to achieve that objective? Is that cool? What you then do is you put the heading, your first objective, and then you go around the wheel and you write down the tool, the tactic. How you're going to use that tool to achieve that objective. When you've gone completely around the wheel, now go to your second objective, put that in the center of the wheel, and repeat that process. Go back around the wheel. If I want to drive more attendance to my presentations, how do I use microblogging to do that? How can I use podcasting to do that? How can I use my presentations to drive more attendance to my presentations? And by answering those questions, you will get a tactic for every single tool. And when you've exhausted every single one of those objectives and determined all the possible tactics, then you prioritize, because more than likely you're going to have so many of them that you're not going to be able to implement them all. So from 1 to 20, just simply prioritize each of those tactics. And then by combining all of those, you actually create your strategy. Does that make sense? Because these are all the tools, the way those tools are going to achieve those objectives, and the entire collection is going to be your next year's strategy, your next quarter's strategy, your client company's marketing strategy. Isn't that a powerful tool? Isn't that absolutely amazing? When I first did this for my company, honestly, I just couldn't believe it. Very exciting. And then there's one other step, and I'm going to kind of take you kind of far out on a limb here if you really want to have some fun with this. After you create those wheels, you notice that you can actually cut the center of the wheels out. They're white and they can be removed. And there's a reason for doing that. Just like this Hoberman sphere that you see here in front of you, what if you created one wheel for traditional, one wheel for social, one wheel for customer service, or you created 3 of the most important wheels, and you were able to connect flat on the table between all those tools. But what if you were able to connect them three-dimensionally, and build it into a sphere where you now can look from one wheel through into another wheel to actually make these three-dimensional fusion connections? Now, you may want to play this back a couple of times to understand what I'm saying. What if you created 3 wheels and connected them, each on the 3 axes, so that you actually had a 3-dimensional marketing plan? Look at this. Look at how I created this. So that for the first time in history, you can create this plan so powerfully using this Safko Wheel and Fusion Marketing. But for the first time in history, you can create a 3-dimensional marketing plan, which means that every time that you look at this marketing plan, which actually becomes a work of art specific to your company or your client company, that you can then look through the wheel and make connections that you never would have seen before if your marketing plan, your Safko Wheel, remained flat, 2 dimensions on the table. That's powerful enough. But how impressive is this, where you can actually now see relationships and the ability to fuse the marketing between multiple wheels? That's the power of this. I hope you enjoyed this presentation, and I hope you enjoy using the Safko Wheel in Fusion Marketing. And I think what you're going to find is that the more you use it, the more different ways you're going to learn, the more different things that you're going to be able to accomplish. And I hope that you connect with me, lonsafko.com, and let me know if you find new ways. I want to learn how you're using this tool, because every time I use it, I find a new way of using it. So I hope you enjoyed this presentation. Thank you.